Hey everybody, Substatica here. I hope you're all doing well. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the differences between two recently released city building simulators for Meta Quest, and that is Cities VR and Little Cities. Before we get to that, take a minute to click the S in the corner to subscribe. Heading for 25,000 subscribers, it would be fantastic if you were one of them. Also like, share, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the video, or the games, or which city builder that you prefer and why. Let me know in the comments. Now, the too long didn't read version of this comparison is that Cities VR is a more challenging, in-depth game that has a lot more options for everything from roads to the economy and budgeting, whereas Little Cities is more of a casual experience for those who don't want to worry about emptying their dump or raising taxes or adjusting the budget for, say, medical services and all those small details. If you just want to dive in and have some fun, or maybe you're not that experienced with city builders, then you probably want to go with Little Cities. If you're looking for more of a challenge, you're looking to get into the nitty-gritty, then you'd probably want to lean towards Cities VR. Let's start off with just a note on the price difference between these two games. Cities VR retails for $29.99 US, whereas Little Cities is $10 cheaper at $19.99 US. So if you've only got a limited amount to spend, that may certainly be a factor in your decision to purchase. Getting into the games, let's talk about graphics. Cities VR has a more realistic, darker feel to it, whereas Little Cities is a bit cartoonier and a little more polished, but there are fewer options in Little Cities, so you're going to run into more glitches in the visuals in Cities VR due to the amount of combinations that are available with roads and buildings and terrain. Let's talk about the UI for each game. Little Cities operates on a bubble system of UI where you open each menu by popping a bubble that represents that menu. That opens a cloud which has little bubbles in it, and you pop those bubbles to select them. Your selected bubble, say a building that you want to build, will hover in a bubble over your other wrist, and if you want to build that, you can place it. If you want to go back, you pop that selected bubble and you're back to your bubble menus on the other side. There's a lot of bubble popping. It's very intuitive, it's lots of fun, but you do end up going back and forth a lot. Now in Cities VR, it's a more traditional palette system where you open up the palette on your controller and then you use the analog stick to select an option from the radius of the palette. And there are a lot of options, so you're drilling in and backing out of that palette a lot. Both work. I think I prefer the bubbles, but the Cities VR option system has a lot more levels, a lot more options included there, so you really do need something probably more extensive than the bubble system. Moving on to the locations that are available in each game. In Cities VR, you have 9 different locations that you can start from to build your city, and they vary from lakes to rivers to islands, mountains, and all sorts of combinations of those. In Little Cities, it's a bit different. You have to start on one island, and then as you build that island up, you unlock additional islands, and some of those islands are archipelagos or a collection of islands that you're going to have to build bridges between for your cities. And there are 6 of these that you unlock through progressing in the game. I've played about 5 to 10 hours of each. Now, to build one city in Cities VR up to, say, the maximum population that one location is going to support, you're looking at over 5 hours, I would say, of gameplay. Whereas in 5 hours of gameplay on Little Cities, you're going to have built maybe 5 or 6 cities right up to their highest population. Let's talk about roads for a second, because roads are a great illustration of the main difference between these two games. In Little Cities, you have one type of road that you can build. Now you can lay out the roads however you want, but it's just one type of road. In Cities VR, you have upwards of 25-30 different types of roads you can build, and that's in addition to intersections and roundabouts, as well as elevating the roads and building the roads into terrain, as well as bridges. Now you can build bridges in Little Cities, but it's very specific situations where you need to build bridges, and there's not a lot of customization done there. It's very limited. Whereas within Cities VR, you can build bridges anywhere you like, and you can raise any road, and as I said, build roads into terrain. There are dirt roads, there are tree-lined roads, there's one-way roads, highways. You can choose the number of lanes for each road, and then you can upgrade roads as your city expands. So definitely way more options in roads in Cities VR than in Little Cities. And that's going to be a theme throughout this comparison. Now, if we want to talk about zoning for a minute, in Little Cities you basically have industrial, commercial, and residential zoning. And in Cities VR you have industrial, low density residential, low density commercial, and then you have high density residential and high density commercial, as well as office zoning. I may even be forgetting one, but there's definitely more options there. The way that Little Cities helps you build up density in an area is that you take those special buildings that you've unlocked for that area, and if you put them in the right zoned district, say in a residential district, those are going to get a boost, and that area is going to get happier, and those buildings are going to grow into higher density residential buildings to help your population. Whereas in Cities VR, you need to tear low density down a lot of times to zone it as high density and build those back up to high density that you can then boost. Let's talk about building in each game. In Little Cities, as your population increases, you unlock some general buildings, but also some buildings that are specific to the area, the location that you're building your city on. So say there's a volcanic location, actually a couple, and you're going to unlock, say, a thermal power plant or a thermal spa. And those buildings are specific to that location. If you're not building on those volcanic locations, you won't get access to those buildings. And that goes for a lot of buildings, special buildings in Little Cities. You have to be on the location that gets those buildings, and you unlock them at a very specific stage in your population. Now in Cities VR, as your population increases, again, you unlock buildings, but those buildings are generic across all locations. So you don't have to worry that you're not going to get a specific building if you're at a specific location. Basically, everything's on the table. It's not restricted in that way. Whereas in Little Cities, you have to progress pretty far through the game, opening up different locations to get access to specific things like a raceway or a rocket launch site. Now, I'm not saying that Cities VR has a raceway or a rocket launch site, but basically all of the buildings are available to all of the locations in Cities VR. Let's talk about in-game economies. In Little Cities, you start off with a certain amount of cash to build your residential, commercial, and industrial, and then build those up according to demand. You're going to unlock cash bonuses at specific population levels that help you pay for upgrades as well as pay for those specialty buildings. But as long as you're placing the specialty buildings to boost the right areas and you're providing the citizens with the utilities they need, you're going to succeed in Little Cities. Overall, it's a very simple economic model. In Cities VR, it's much more in-depth. You have taxes for each zoning area, you have loans that you can take out, you also have budgets for each service which you can raise and lower based on the demand for that service. Overall, it's much more difficult, but if that's what you're into, that's the in-depth game. Whereas Little Cities, it sells itself as the cozy city builder, the casual city builder, and that's really one aspect that a lot of players don't want to deal with. Now, on Cities VR, you can actually start a game with unlimited cash if you don't want to worry about that side of things, or you can dive into the whole in-depth economy. I got pretty far into my first city without even opening up the imposing screen of financials. Now, having covered most of the major aspects of the two games, I wanted to point out some of the other differences. In Little Cities, we've got some natural disasters to help spice things up. We've got volcanic eruptions and sandstorms to deal with. And on the Cities VR side, we've got things like waste management and transit routes, as well as some landscaping to help make city builds our own. Now, it's important to note that both of these games were recently released, and I'm sure we're going to see them grow. An update has already been released to Cities VR, and I know that Little Cities has some exciting new content coming out really soon. Now, those of you who follow my channel will know that I've put over 5 hours into each of these games. You can watch those playthroughs. I'll put links in the description to the playlists, and feel free to check them out. I'd love to hear your tips and tricks on how I could make my cities better. Now, I really do think there's an audience for both of these games. Yes, they're both city builders, but we've got Little Cities, the cozy casual city builder, and then we've got Cities VR, the more in-depth complex, challenging city builder, and I think there's room for both of them to thrive. What do you think? If you haven't already, take a minute to click the S in the corner to subscribe. Heading for 25,000 subscribers, I'd love to have you on the team. Also, like, share, leave a comment. Let me know what you think of the video or the game, or which city builder you prefer, or what you'd like to see in either of them. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.